Horse girls, every man's dream. They were born to run and they inherit the names of famous horses throughout all of history. Nobody knows how these horse girls' future races will end, and so they will continue to run, aiming only towards the goal in front of them. Alright, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, so first let's take a step back.
君と夢をかけるよ何回だって勝ち進め勝利のその先へ
If you've been on the anime side of the internet recently, you may have seen some of these clips. After the absolute failure that was Blue Lock Season 2, MUSUME started going viral for being an anime about horse girls that has better animation than 90% of sports anime, as well as the studio, Cygames Pictures, for getting the rights to adapt Kagurabachi. But upon looking at the comments on these posts, you may notice that not many people in the comments have seen it, which is why I have taken it upon myself to answer the question, is MUSUME worth watching? I want to preface this by saying I'm not the target audience for this show, but because I'm a seasonal anime watcher, I am a master of watching series that I'm not in the demographic for. That being said, I actually unironically enjoyed my time with this series, but now let's get into the plot. The story takes place in modern day Japan, where certain girls are born special. Born as horse girls. But because this show is based on a gacha game, they just have animal ears and a tail. Every single character in this show is named after and based on real horses throughout history, and their wins and losses are all real, which I thought was pretty cool. It follows our main horse girl, Special Week, who they call Spe for short, but because that kind of sounds like a slur, I'll just stick to her normal name. She moves away from her small town in the countryside in order to go to the big city and pursue her dream of being Japan's best horse girl. Where have I seen this plot before? Upon arriving, she's able to see her first race between some of the top horse girls in Japan. It's important to mention that even though they're horse girls, it's basically just a normal race, so just imagine this as track and field. While watching the race, she gets her first look at Silent Suzuka, a girl based off of a real-life racehorse who, after getting injured, was put down directly after the race, and we'll get back to that point later. While watching the race, her legs are felt up by the obligatory perverted trainer, because horse girl anime. We needed at least one pervy character, but it's okay because he's actually the trainer of Silent Suzuka. Upon watching Suzuka absolutely demolish all the other girls in the race, Special Week is immediately captivated by her and sets her goals on running alongside Suzuka, but not before getting felt up again, because horse girl anime. She then rushes to leave but is convinced to stay for the winning concert. Wait a minute, is this an idol anime? Alright, so let's recap real quick. We have horse girls who are just anime girls with horse ears and a tail. They're all based on real horses, and when they win, the top 3 racers have to perform a concert. This show is just unapologetically catering towards its audience, and I respect that. After finishing the concert, she makes it to her new school, Tracen Academy, where we are immediately introduced to all of her classmates. And this is where we get to play a little game I like to call Guess the Gotcha Character! Can you guess which 4 of these anime girls will play a larger role in the story based on character design alone? Alright, it's these 4. It was obvious. This is a running theme throughout the whole show. Because this is based on a gacha game, it's extremely obvious when a character is out of the game, especially because they drop this little banner next to them to let you know that they're from the game. Special Week then decides she wants to try and join the same team as Suzuka, where we finally get to see her potential as a racer. The race starts. At first, she's getting completely gapped, but upon seeing Suzuka watching, she's given a burst of energy. She pulls ahead of the pack, and in a near photo finish, she lost? Needless to say, she takes the loss pretty hard, and upon walking back to her dorm, she's kidnapped by 3 horse girls, who, based on hair alone, you can already tell will be main characters. She's taken to a room where her blindfold is taken off, and she's greeted by the pervy guy from Suzuka's race. Now, normally being kidnapped and seeing a guy who felt up your legs earlier would be a bad thing, but not in MUSUME, because she's recruited to join their team, Team Spica, the team that Suzuka just transferred to. And that's the end of episode 1, and the rest of the season practically plays out as safe as a sports anime can get. Special Week begins training, one of the activities being Twister.
I know what kind of man you are.
Special Week has her debut race, wins her debut race, completely botches the winning concert. She gets sent off to learn to sing and dance, where we're introduced to my favorite character in the series, Tokai Teo, but we'll get back to her later. Special Week wins like 3 more times until she finally gets 3rd place in one race, but then she trains again and immediately starts winning. And this is where I can really voice my problem with season 1, and that is just the lack of stakes. It seems like like basically every race besides the one she loses in episode 4, Special Week is always going to win, and in general, it's just not that intense in the first season, which is not what the clips I saw looked like. I want close calls, photo finishes. Take Steel Ball Run, for example, where it completely leads you to believe one person is going to win the race only for them to get passed at the last second. And it's the lack of stakes in this season that almost make the races take a back seat to the circumstances surrounding them. That is, until Silent Suzuka gets hurt. Remember how I told you that her real-life counterpart was put down after getting hurt? Well, if that's what they do to horses, what do you think they do to horse girls? This show takes a shocking turn as Silent Suzuka is literally euthanized. I'm just kidding. She gets injured, goes through rehab, and makes it back okay, but this is where we get our first look at what will be a running theme throughout Season 2. And the rest of the season plays out practically the way you think. But there are a couple new characters that join the team, being Tokai Teo and Mejiro McQueen, both of which take the lead roles of Season 2. Alright, now I know I skimmed over most of Season 1 because I think this show really has a quality spike in Season 2. I like to think of this anime as Horse Girl JoJo because every season of the show, as well as the OVAs and movies, focus on brand new characters, with the previous main cast taking a complete backseat. And this works very strongly in his favor because in Season 2, I think Tokai Teo is a major step up from her predecessor, Special Week, in character design and writing alike. Season 1 was a very tame story of our main character working her way up the ladder and showing the joy that can be found from her passion, which almost lulls you into this false sense of this show just being cute girls doing cute things. But in Season 2, they crank up the drama and emotional levels to 100, which completely catches you off guard. In the very first episode of Season 2, we're given the backstory of our new main character, Tokai Teo. She's always looked up to Symboli Rudolph, who is the only horse girl to ever win a Triple Crown while remaining undefeated. The Triple Crown being winning the 3 biggest races in a row, and Tokai is aiming to do the exact same thing. Now, already at the start of this season, the biggest difference is that our two leads, Mejiro McQueen and Teo, are already the top contenders in their league, effectively making them the final boss to all the other girls in the division. And this works really well to further the other characters' development later on. Teo easily wins the first of the 3 races, but unfortunately during the concert portion, she notices a minor injury on her leg, and upon getting it checked out, it's revealed that she fractured her leg, and that she will be out for a year, meaning she will not be able to race in the Kika show in 6 months, making her unable to attain her dream. And this is when the show starts to be a little more focused on realistic things, as well as becoming more relatable than most sports anime. Because I think most athletes can relate to that feeling of trying so hard, but something you have no control over, something like an injury, just sets you back. And I can't think of any other sports anime that go as far into the mental health effects of an injury on an athlete. And somehow an anime about horse girls ends up being more relatable to the average person than something like Blue Lock. But moving on, Teo is determined to come back within those 6 months and get that win at the Kika show. And this cycle of her trying to get better is where the show really starts to become something more. And there's one specific scene I would mark as a major turning point for this series. While on the path to recovery, Teo goes to watch a race she would otherwise be taking place in, devastated that she was unable to participate, and she begins to cry. And that's when we're given this scene.
言わせない言わせない言わせない言わせない帝王が出ていればなんて絶対言わせない帝王に負けるもんか私たちの方が上だ上だ上なんだ行け行け
A scene like this, to me, is a love letter to competition. It so beautifully captures the effect that one single person can have on so many others. We could have easily got an inner monologue from Teo here, going over everything she's feeling in this moment, seeing these girls say these things, as we get in so many other anime, but instead we just get this scene of her screaming out "go," which just gives so much more raw emotion than it would if they had gone the inner monologue route. And somehow in a silly horse girl anime, this scene just absolutely tugs the heartstrings. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier about Teo effectively being the final boss for everybody else. Because she's not there, we get to see the way she's affected everybody else who wants to prove that regardless of her absence, they're worthy, as well as the same way those people inspire Teo to make it back, regardless of any doubts she might have. Teo slowly makes her comeback, all while setting her eyes on Mejiro McQueen, the favorite to win the Kiku show, as well as a member of her own team, and after a long and hard journey, she finally makes it back to her first race. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to make it back in time time to go for the triple crown, but she can still attain her goal of being an undefeated horse girl. And first off, she gets some new drip, and it looks so good. I love her character design. Anyway, she's able to easily breeze past her opponents and win, setting the stage for her to take on McQueen in the first big race since her injury. The race starts. Both McQueen and Teo hang back, saving their energy for the final stretch of the race. Upon rounding the third corner, McQueen takes the lead with Teo close behind, and in a final spurt, Teo puts everything she has into her final burst of energy, where she is not only unable to catch up to McQueen, but everybody else passes her, making her end in 4th place. The way this show established itself in the first season, I thought 100% she would win this one. Have a moment where she remembers everything leading up to this point and overcomes all the odds, but she doesn't. Not only did she lose the goal she was chasing for so long, but she re-fractured her leg, and it is just genuinely brutal. Her injury isn't nearly as bad as the first, so she's still able to train, but after losing the goal she spent so long chasing, she can't find any motivation to keep going. And even in her next race, she doesn't have the motivation to push past her limits and win. In anime, we're so used to the story of our characters being constantly on the rise, always getting stronger and better to overcome all odds, but in this season we see a top contender slowly fall, and we get to see the mental toll that has on her. And after losing that race, she realizes although she can't reach her original goals, she still hates the feeling of losing, and once again, she got a slight injury, which all these injuries actually happened to the real Tokai Teo, by the way. In the time during Teo's recovery, we're introduced to Rice Shower, who's based on a real horse that was hated for so often beating the favorites and preventing them from remaining undefeated, and the anime counterpart goes through a very similar thing. I don't want to get that much into it, but she has a very heartwarming arc where after attaining the win she spent so long working towards, she was booed by all the fans, and it made her lose love for racing. And she has a great arc where she accepts the hate and even beats McQueen in a race, handing her her first loss. And again, I know I'm kind of skimming over these things, but it's all these little arcs and like looks into character motivations that I think really set season 2 apart from the first. We're also introduced to a character named Twin Turbo, who's probably my second favorite character in the series, who is aiming to beat Teo in a race when she comes back. Remember that for later. Because Teo is finally back in action. She's found her passion again, learned her goals, and even though she can't go for the original goal of being undefeated, she's now set her goal on beating McQueen, using the loss as a lesson. And now it's time for a training montage.
今度はマックイーンとの勝負絶対に負けたく
Once again, this is just absolutely diabolical. This injury was the nail in the coffin for Teo as she finally decides to give up on racing. And when Twin Turbo tries to challenge her to a race, we see Teo be rude for the first time in the series, telling her it's impossible to come back. Twin Turbo responds saying she'll win the next race she's in, and if that happens, Teo has to race her, only for Teo, her idol, to tell her she can't win, she's not good enough. And that makes Twin Turbo work even harder. Because she was quitting racing, everybody set up one final performance for her where she will announce her retirement, and that's when all the fans start yelling about how they want her to come back, and then we get this scene.
11番のツインターボ見事に決めたぞ逃亡のツインターボ
This is probably my favorite scene in the series. It's something we've seen a million times, that power of never giving up and just how inspiring it is, but I think it was used in a perfect way at this moment. This event, on top of everything else, convinces her to try racing again, and the next few episodes focus on her recovery. But because this show can't let you be happy, McQueen gets an injury that will end her career, and Teo tries to prove that nothing is impossible by winning the final G1 race of the season despite having terrible odds to win, in order to prove to McQueen she can make it back. And that's exactly what she does. The whole race was just awesome. I would advise you to watch it for yourself. And then the season ends with a time skip where we see Teo and McQueen finally racing each other again. And that's really it. There's a whole season 3 and some OVAs, so maybe if this video does well, I'll make a new and hopefully better video on those. I was a little short on time for this one. But let me answer the question. Was it worth it? This isn't my favorite show by any means, but I think the parts it excels in, it does really, really well. Few sports anime have been able to get me emotional the way this one did. The characters are really good, and although the first 2 seasons don't have that insane animation it went viral for, I think it's worth a watch. But that's it. See ya.